think we can start getting started. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on our Introduction to the Connected Worker webinar today. I am joined today by Andrea Masterton from Poka, as well as Yannick Eck from Poka and Alex Ivkovic from CDF, one of our customers. Andrea is going to start the chat today, but really it is just a quick 30-minute webinar to take you through some very interesting facts, and then to just have an understanding of how CDF has gone about making the decision on using Poka. So Andrea, I'm going to hand over to you. Also, just quickly, if you have any questions, please pop them into the question bar. I'll keep an eye on those. And at the end of the webinar, we will start building those questions across to the team.
Great. Thank you, Tammy. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. Really appreciate it. So what I wanted to start by doing is really unpacking for us at the beginning here this concept of the connected worker, and lay some foundation for the discussion that's gonna follow. So for years, digital transformation efforts in manufacturing have really been focused on automation. Industry 4.0 investments have been made in equipment and sensors to monitor that equipment. IoT, or the Internet of Things, has really been regarded as a necessity for any smart modern factory. But the last few years have seen an increased focus on and investment in connecting people, not just connecting things. So instead of IoT, I like to call this IOP, Internet of People. And this trend has really been driven by a few things. For sure, the skilled workforce crisis that we're seeing with chronic turnover in factories, challenges attracting and retaining and engaging a younger workforce, an aging workforce at the same time, going into retirement and taking with them all of their knowledge and best practices. We talk about that tribal knowledge. Also, challenges tied to standard work, so trouble establishing and operationalizing and improving standard work. Next, there's issues tied to employee productivity. So despite all of that investment in automation, a lot of the processes that are touching the people in factories are very antiquated, haven't evolved past stand-up huddles, spreadsheets, whiteboards, so leading to very disconnected information and data, and really one-off kind of single-threaded processes. And finally, all of those three challenges kind of come together in that last one you see here, which is leading to losses in production. And anywhere those losses are tied to man and method, well, that's where the connected worker can really help and improve performance. The esteemed analyst firm LNS, they're an industrial transformation analyst firm, they provide a compelling way for us to think about the connected worker. They look at the characteristics or the attributes or the outcomes that we can expect from a connected workforce. So they tell us that connected workers are first and foremost competent. So they've got the knowledge and the skills to perform their jobs. They're safe, so they're aware of the risks and aware of how to mitigate those risks. They're agile, and when we think about agility, it's not just that they're versatile in their skills and able to problem solve more autonomously, but also not just coming in and operating their equipment or punching the clock. They're really coming in and they're acting as managers of their areas of responsibility. And then last but not least, they're engaged, they're motivated to contribute, and they're able to collaborate in an ongoing way. And LNS also mentioned that there's a strong positive correlation between connected worker implementations and profitability. So they discovered that high margin operations are 59% more likely to have implemented connected worker solutions. And then Gartner helps further clarify this picture by distinguishing connected worker technologies from existing factory systems like MES and QMS. So they talk about the connected worker, and they've been monitoring this trend for the last several years. The connected worker, you can see there on the right, actually entered the manufacturing operations hype cycle in 2019, and today it's at the peak of the hype cycle, which reflects the transformational potential that companies can derive from adopting the technology. I can share this or the last report with anyone interested on the call. You can just put a note in the chat there, and I'll share those reports with you after the presentation. I should also point out that Poka is one of only 2 vendors that's been listed in this category for 4 years in a row now. So, a maturing market segment and one that Poka has been leading and defining for many years. So with that, I wanted to open up a conversation and invite Alex from CDF to join us. So CDF is a longstanding IFS client and has recently signed up to utilize Poka. So I thought it would be an interesting opportunity for us to hear, from his CIO perspective on this topic. So good morning, Alex. Nice to see you. How are you doing? Great. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about CDF. Who is CDF? What do you make? And what's your business?
CDF Corporation, we actually do IT for a number of connected businesses, SharePack North America, QuadPack in Sweden, but all of it revolves around plastic and packaging. We make everything from, I'm sure you've all seen the pouches in the grocery store that your kids use. We make, at one point, I know it was 50% of those in North America. It's still a pretty high percentage, all the way to big 250-gallon ocean-going shipping containers. So it's all involves flexible packaging of various types, from ounces to many, many gallons.
Okay, great. And how big is the business? How many production facilities do you have?
We have plants in Johnstown, Ohio. We have 3 here in Massachusetts and 1 in Värnamo, Sweden.
Okay, great. And what's your history with IFS? How long have you been working with IFS?
Gosh, we've been on IFS for over 15 years. We use it pretty extensively. That's what runs all of our operations, from accounting to manufacturing. Heck, the robots on our shop floor are run by IFS. So we're very integrated with their products.
Okay, great. And maybe you can share with me some of the company's current challenges and corporate goals that you have. And maybe part B of that question is, how does Poka potentially help address some of those goals and challenges?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're having the same supply chain issues that everybody else is with shipping and trying to get stuff in. And then we're having the same labor challenges that is affecting everybody else. And clearly Poka is a large part of that. IFS asked me to just take a demo to see the product, and I didn't know very much about it. But I invited our HR people and some manufacturing people, and they just got so excited because a lot of what they're seeing is, trying to get staff out on the factory floor. And really, typically, the products aren't designed for them. They don't even go into IFS. They just go about their daily work. And to have something that could help tie them together was really exciting. And most of the plant management, as you indicated earlier, they're a different generation. A lot of them are still baby boomers or just on the edge of it. And sometimes there's communication problems with the younger generation. And one of our feelings was this would be a really great way to tie communications, where it might help them communicate. It would make the younger workers feel more comfortable. It would allow them to communicate in a way that they're familiar with. I mean, we've all seen, 19, 20-year-olds on their phone, and that's what they're used to doing. So by tying Poka in, we thought that it would help them communicate with the more senior staff and just be a form of communications that everyone could utilize. It's a more comfortable way for them to get training. One of the parts we're most excited about is the onboarding module. Typically today here at CDF, we get a new employee that's going to work on the shop floor, and we'll show them a video on how not to throw their back out in one for forklifts. And then we throw them on the floor and someone has to train them. Now, there may be a language barrier where it's difficult. And our plan moving forward from HR is that we're going to produce some Poka, the short videos that it specializes in, multilingually, so that by the time the person hits the shop floor, they've already seen what they're going to be doing, how they're going to be doing it. Now, it's not going to negate the need for someone on the shop floor to help them out, but we feel that it'll really increase the comfort level of that employee going out on the shop floor for the first time. It's not the first time they've seen things. They kind of have an idea what they're going to be doing. And then the whole training modules in Poka, where they can watch videos and kind of move up in the ranks, I guess, or gain experience and be rated at that. We think that'll give shop floor employees that normally didn't have anything like that goals to make them basically feel better about what they're doing. They can become lead operators, trainers, and Poka ties into all of that, being able to push that forward. Yeah. So basically, we just feel all over that it's going to help us with our labor situation, that employees that are involved in those ways are more likely to stay, more likely to just be happy at work and more involved.
I love that. Yeah, just helping to feed a certain culture within your operations, probably that makes it a little bit more, we talk about increasing the employee value proposition, right?
Right.
Can I ask, was there any concern or questions around overlap with your existing tech stack, or is there an opportunity to consolidate or replace any existing systems by bringing Poka into the factories?
There was no real concern over overlap. I mean, this is brand new territory. Like I was said earlier, most of our shop floor employees don't touch our tech stack at all. They go out on the floor. Except for the time clock where they punch in and out, they really didn't have much to do with it. And I think bringing them into it will be very helpful. The slight overlap is Poka has a fairly extensive forms module, which I'm sure you guys will talk about, where there's active forms, and we're super excited about that because currently all we have is some paper ones and very limited. But this ability to create a live form where, so if someone's starting a shift, say they're driving a forklift, and they can fill out the form on the tablet. If there's a problem, we can, if they say no to something that should be a yes, we can automatically notify people. It all gets stored automatically for easy retrieval. I mean, we're super excited about that part of the program. So that's only slight and very minor overlap.
Yeah, and a good overlap, an enhancement.
Oh, it's a great overlap. Yeah, that's, like I said, that's one of the parts we're most excited about.
That's great. Where are you in your project right now? What's the timeline that you're expecting for rolling out Poka?
We've designated our team that's going to put it together, and they're currently doing their self-training. It's called Poka 101. And next week we have our kickoff training with Poka. One of the things I got to tell you, I was really impressed with was the implementation team and their attention to detail. I mean, I've been in IT for quite a while, and I've led many a project, and I was super impressed with the level of organization and the process that they outlined. They're saying it's going to be an 8-week process, and they haven't, pretty much this is what we're going to do and this is when we're going to do it. And they can be flexible. People are out sick or whatever, but it's just a very well organized, thoughtful process.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'll pass that along for sure. Maybe last question, and you touched on this a little bit before when you talked about onboarding, but I'm just wondering if you have any expected KPI improvements, or what improvements are you measuring as you launch Poka that's going to tie back to the business and the business goals we spoke about earlier?
Well, I mean, our some of the things like the forms and stuff, they involve safety, but it's kind of hard to put a KPI on that. I mean, we have such an emphasis on safety anyway. We had one chargeable accident in the last year or so. It's not like we're going to do much there. But I think the main metrics we're going to be looking at is employee retention. We do employee surveys, so we're going to look at, do they look at this as a positive? Can we keep some of the younger generation? So I think what's really going to tell the tale is the employee retention numbers and recruitment numbers.
Okay. Great. Well, I wish you the best of luck, Alex, as you launch Poka. Thanks very much for not just joining us today, but for the trust you've placed in us to help transform your factories. And I'm looking forward to interviewing you again in a year from now with a great success story.
Absolutely, and I'm fairly comfortable it will be. Thank you so much, Andrea.
You're welcome. Yeah. So now I'll hand the floor over to Yannick, who's going to give a bit more of an introduction to Poka.
Thanks, Alex, by the way. Super inspiring to listen to customers and what they plan to achieve with Poka. So it's always great to be a close witness to those kind of speeches. So maybe you can flip to the next slide. So as Andrea was saying, we're a connected worker application. Actually, we've been around since 2014, right? So the word connected worker at the time did not exist, right? So somehow we hope in all humility that we help somehow shape that industry, as Andrea was referring to. And with our co-founder and CEO Alex Leclerc being raised essentially in a manufacturing facility and having all of this humility for factory worker, we've always put a lot of attention at the frontline worker and making this person like the front and center user persona in our app. So we're known for being one of the most user-friendly application, and we're almost obsessed with it. We're also known for having the most global deployments. So those are the type of things that you would hear about Poka, right? So I guess I'm seeing your desktop now and not the presentation yet. Thank you so much. So yeah, you can flip to the next. Okay, cool. So been around since 2014. You can see from the logos there that initially we were a bit more into the food and bev industry, fast-moving consumer goods, then started to adopt those types of tool solution or technologies. And a little bit like Alex was saying, we have quite a lot of customers into the packaging industry, plastic industry. We're starting to see customers in the automotive industry as well. So today, almost like 10 years later, it's a pretty diversified in terms of segments, but it's still always manufacturing, and it's like deep down to our roots, right? So that's kind of key for us. You can see the number of countries we're in. And if you go just a little slide up just for a second, the number of employees we have, we're at 150 employees now, both covering North America and Europe. So we're Canada based, but obviously we have people in Europe. So we have this ability, even from a professional service perspective, as Alex was referring to kind of service different customers all over the world, right? So if you go to the next one, often when we present, we're being asked, well, what are the key, ROI or success stories that you have? Alex shared, is employee retention being one of them, hinted at, on a couple of safety metrics, right? So if you look at the bottom, for example, in terms of safety, Poka is widely used to better track near-miss reporting, better track safety observations, and obviously the reason why we do near-miss reporting is to minimize the number of recordable accidents, right? So that's one reason. Obviously, the training is one, so getting our training more efficient, more engaging with the newer generation, and sometimes it's also like this, this famous mother of all KPI, the OEE, right? So we have that as well that we've been able to showcase with specific customers. So we have some sort of a wide range of KPIs that we can impact, and obviously it has to be aligned with whatever the customer's most painful problem is, right? So we don't have like this rigid implementation methodology that we have to do ABC in that specific sequence. It's more to align with the customer's needs, as we're doing with Alex, right? So if you go to the next, just to kind of get into a little bit more like the details as to, okay, what it is, right? What's the key functionalities that we have? So we often say that we have this two worlds kind of living complementary to each other, right? So the learning and development world on the blue side, and then the daily management one. So L&D, we essentially cover knowledge management. So typically what's referred as digital work instructions, right? And skills management also. So training management, training records playing a key part of it. now. And on the daily management side, everything that has to do with filling in checklists, right? Filling in forms, making sure we can actually raise issues. And we have a whole task management functionality as well. And as you can see in the middle, we're talking a little bit about employee engagement with Alex. Well, communication is at the heart of everything we do. As you've seen, we have over 30 languages in the app. So language barriers, so to us, translation and language management is key to our platform as well. And we now have a really robust analytics offering that we'll cover in a brief moment. And at the bottom of the slide, we showed the key processes or TPM pillars or workflows that we truly enable. So everything that has to do with CILs, abnormality handling, sometimes referred to tags or defect handling, shift changeover between operator to the next or line manager to the next, 5S playing key role in that. We can help that a lot on the 5S front, health and safety, and obviously, education and training with digital work instructions and skills. So this, in a nutshell, is what we do. And if we look at it more from a kind of a sequence perspective, this slide, by the way, I've been with Poka for the past 7 years now, right? And I think I saw that slide when I first joined, like day one, being presented by Alex Leclerc, our CEO, because it's truly at the heart of what we do is to be able to learn from our mistakes, to flip mistakes into opportunities, to share those, not be finger pointing, more looking at our process, right? Putting our operator at the center. So that's why we're so user-centric, and ultimately being able to leverage those opportunities and turn them into knowledge and skills, right? So that's, in one sentence, like the mission we all try for at Poka, right? So we'll go in each of those core functionalities. So forms and checklists. Was speaking to a plan manager a while ago, and then was like, you know what, Yannick? The only thing I care about is, are we doing what we're supposed to do on a daily basis? So can we schedule checklists, right? And make sure that we look at those that we've missed. And the second thing we truly want to know is, did we have any deviations on those checklists, right? So the key features of forms and checklists allow you to do whatever check you want to do. So we're talking about forklift, right? So forklift inspection check should be done on a daily basis. You can schedule those, right? See the ones you've missed. And if there's any deviation, well, there's an automated deviation box that will appear to be able to document those, and then create an issue automatically from that deviation if you wish to do it. So if you go to the next slide, maybe Andrea, we try also to work at Poka at having a task-oriented app. So no matter the features we have, right, we try to put ourselves into the shoes of the operator. So from our checklist, we have that deviation, we raise an issue. So as you can see in here, the issue can be tied back to the form. We can assign issue, because we've seen that when you can assign issues, the time to resolution is much faster. So we have that possibility in the app as well. And this really good visibility into what we call the issue center, which is essentially a representation of all of the active issues on a per line basis. So it's really used, for example, in any daily or tier meetings that we have. And once we solve those issues, obviously what we want to do is flip those into knowledge, right? So that's where the knowledge management comes in. So pretty exhaustive. So certainly the most sophisticated features that we have with all of the versions, approval workflows, and all that stuff, right? So truly and essentially the first key feature we went to business with, right? And at some point in time when we're engaging with customers and knowledge, we're like, it's not because someone has actually seen a work instruction that is actually skilled to do that operation. And that's where skills management was born, probably like 2017, 2018-ish, right? And this is this whole notion of pre-shop floor training, as Alex was referring to, but also like machine-specific training that we want to manage. So this whole training records, and we're coming up with a scheduling, skill scheduling functionality to better guide the users and then trainers to the skills they should actually do first, because we know that in factories often you have those kind of 30, 60, 90 days program where employees should focus on those trainings first. So this is like in a nutshell the key functionalities that we have. Obviously, the reporting and analytics, as you've seen in the middle, of the flywheel thing, is really, really key. We know that all factories are super keen on, visual management, so we have to be in that kind of philosophy as well in the app. So obviously, we have predefined like Poka built dashboards. We can export all of the data to a data lake infrastructure that you will have on your side, right? And we've recently, this year actually, launched a custom analytics offering called Dashboard Builder, where you can actually create and develop custom charts, but by staying in your Poka session. So this, we've seen dramatic improvements in terms of the rapidity, where a factory wants to have a specific dashboards to the time it actually gets it. So we have a pretty good foundation from an analytics perspective. And when we're talking about enterprise rollout, it's important that we're in a position to actually share and extract all of the analytics from all of the sites, so that we can have higher level site comparison potentially, or even correlate Poka data, let's say skills data, with your MES or OEE data, for example, right? So as we're talking about enterprise stuff, right, the other key thing is this notion of how can we best integrate it with your ecosystem, right? So we're an engaged worker platform. We see ourselves as a frontline worker platform, but obviously you have a lot of different systems running in the back end, like Alex was referring to. So obviously we want to facilitate your life and be able to integrate as easily as possible with those systems. I would say that out of this slide, the typical ask we get is the CMMS system, so the maintenance system. So we do have a lot of customers actually integrating Poka with their CMMS, so that the operator wouldn't have to duplicate an entry of an issue, for example, in Poka, and do it in the same place in the CMMS. But with the REST API that we have, and by the way, we have the same approach, same philosophy as IFS does in terms of integration, API, a super well documented API. So for you IFS customers, you should feel at home with this type of integration capabilities that we have in Poka. And maybe last slide, I know it's like 3 minutes left, but when we're talking about integration, a key part also is the user provisioning, right? So how can we, especially if you're an enterprise with multi sites, how can we streamline the provisioning, whether by leveraging Azure AD, Active Directory, whether by leveraging Okta, for example, and any other users source of truth. So we facilitate this. So through the SCIM protocol, you're actually able to provision all of those users or user groups directly in Poka, so you don't have to manually recreate them in Poka. Same things when an employee leaves, for example, it's automatically managed by your Active Directory, for example. So this has been something that we've been working quite a lot in the past 12 months, I'd say. And from that point on, you can actually just configure not only users in Poka, but user groups, which is even more efficient, right? So we're always thinking of how can we simplify the deployment, I would say, at the first site, but also at the 10th and at the 20th sites, right? So this is also part of the equation, I would say, in the integration, or at least, digital landscape at factories. So yeah, I'll pause there. We're 1 minute away, right? So back to you, Andrea or Tammy.
Yes. Thanks, Yannick. Thanks again, Alex. We are running up against the end of our time together, but for sure, if you have any questions, I'd encourage you to drop them into the chat area of the platform. We will very promptly follow up with you individually to make sure we get all of those answered. And if any of you are interested in learning more about Poka, or perhaps booking a personalized demo so that we can take you through the app and zero in on some specific use cases that you might have in mind, we'd be happy to do that. You're welcome to reach out to me directly. My email address is there up on screen, so would love to hear from you and get that scheduled. So with that, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks again, Yannick and Alex, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Emails will be sent out with the recording. So should you want that, that will come through to your inboxes. And again, if you have any questions, please do reach out to us. We appreciate you spending time with us. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.